Hi, everyone. We are Don't Mess with the Mommas with our motto.
You are the protagonist of your life, not the victim of your destiny.
Take it away, Carla.
Okay, so today we will be speaking on or discussing failing forward. And it's going to deal with failures, overcoming them, what they really are, and I hope you'll enjoy our discussion.
So we're going to talk a lot about failures, but we don't really consider that concept of failing. What does that mean? That's why it's called failing forward, the experience of failing, but in quotes, okay, because you don't really ever fail. And we're going to be talking about the concept of mistakes and how they could benefit you. So, Carla, why is that important? What do you think?
Well, let's see. Failure is temporary, and it's inevitable because it's connected to growth. Mm-hmm. It's not permanent, okay? And it can help you to go in a more positive direction. Let's see what else. It's only a failure. It's only a defeat if you give up.
Right.
So you have to constantly be challenging yourself. Don't take it hard. Just okay. It's a better way to build a mousetrap.
Yes, absolutely. And on that, since you said that,
okay,
better way to build a mousetrap, I was looking, and actually I looked at the definition of what is a mistake, and it's producing an unintended or unwanted result. But that's where growth really occurs, right?
Mm-hmm,
And so I love this. Jules Verne, who wrote Journey to the Center of the Earth,
right?
He said, science is made up of mistakes, but they are mistakes which are useful to make because they lead little by little to the truth. And it's interesting, when you look historically, the microwave started out with a guy who had a chocolate bar in his pocket and it melted from the sun. So obviously he was a brilliant scientist and he thought, oh, that's interesting. And then he said microwaves from the sun. And then he eventually developed the microwave.
Okay.
Another one is the Post-it notes. So it's like really interesting. So this guy was looking for a way to have a stronger adhesive. Mm-hmm. And it didn't work. It was like too weak. But then he realized that weak adhesive you could easily, tear off, right? So he developed the Post-it notes from that. From that. And then finally, there are many others, but Velcro. He went on a whatever expedition and he got all these burrs stuck in him and his dog, and very painful. And then he started studying under the microscope the burrs, and it was kind of like a lock. The birds, the way they were situated or the way they were, whatever, how they naturally develop. And he developed Velcro from that. So that's very interesting for sure. And just to say a couple of things that, mistakes or what's considered failures, that it desensitizes you. So you're not so ego-driven and you're not saying, I have to be perfect, right? And it develops grit, resilience, right? I mean, how can you could never grow as a human being if you don't experience what is considered temporary defeat. And sometimes what appears as defeat is not defeat at all.
No.
And what Edison said, and then I'm going to put it back to you to talk about more.
Okay.
So Edison said, what was his secret to success? He explained that it was to never give up before he succeeded in what he was trying to do. Not giving up. That's the only way. As you were saying, once you give up, you are defeated. And one more thing, failure represents a significant gap between expected and actual results, serving as a powerful catalyst for psychological and professional evolution. You can build emotional resilience and refine your character and become more humble. So what do you think?
The other thing is that if you lose today, win tomorrow.
Right.
Just redetermine.
What's your experience with
Failure?
failure or mistakes?
Well, my first marriage was definitely a failure. But from that, I learned that I had to depend on myself.
Yes.
And it didn't matter what anybody else did. As I continued on my journey of being single, I learned that it didn't matter what anybody did or didn't do, that my happiness was up to me.
Yes.
And that I was in charge of it, and I had to be responsible for my own life.
Absolutely.
So that definitely helped me to grow and to advance and not to get stuck in anything that wasn't good for me.
I love that. I love that. I have 3 incidences of mistakes or failures that turned around completely. But the one story I wanted to share, which I've shared, this is in our organization, the SGI, we have seniors in faith who encourage. You know, the organization is built on encouraging one another, you know, to move forward in their lives.
Yeah.
So one encouragement is called "This is Good." It's the "This is Good" guidance.
Okay.
And I'm paraphrasing this, but there was a story long ago about this king and his sidekick, and they went out to shoot on the rifle range or whatever they had in those days, and the aide ended up shooting off by accident the king's finger. And then the aide said, "This is good." And the king looked at him like, "What the heck are you talking about?" So anyway, so the aide was put in prison. Many years later, the king was on an expedition with a bunch of new aides, and they ran into cannibals. And they were about to be cooked and eaten. And then when the cannibals saw that the king didn't have a thumb, they said, "Oh, no," you know, they said, we're not eating this guy, right? So it really ended up saving his life. And then, you know, of course, this is good. Then when the king came back and shared the experience and then eventually got that aide out of prison, the aide said, this is good that you put me in prison, because had I been with you, I would have been eaten alive, right? So sometimes we never know when we think this is the road I need to pursue, this is what needs to happen, not necessarily at all. And so when I was in 3rd grade, I was always into the United Nations. I was always like a peace-loving kid for some reason. I have no idea, but another lifetime for sure. And I took an exam, a social studies exam, with my teacher then called Mrs. Halpern, the Wicked Witch of the West, for sure.
Okay,
she was so evil. And the question was, who was the first governor of New York or New Amsterdam? And the answer should have been Peter Stuyvesant. And I wrote Dag Hammarskjöld, which who knows how I spelled that as a 3rd grader, D-O-G, right? Dag Hammarskjöld, who was the Undersecretary General of the United Nations. Well, instead of her thinking, wow, this kid knows about the United Nations, I ended up with a 45 on the exam. She called my parents in. She made me feel so stupid and so bad. And I internalized that. So wouldn't you know that many years later in life, I ended up going to Columbia University and getting my degrees in international relations, African studies, political science, and almost got a doctorate. And I really am convinced that because of that experience, not that I was consciously aware, but it like really did something in my life, and it was like this feeling, I'll show you. My other experience was also getting into Columbia University, because we had no money growing up at all, and I was good in school because I had to work harder than anyone, because I always had these severe headaches as a kid. So I had to work doubly or triply hard. So I got good grades, but nothing like the kids at Columbia University. And when I applied, the secretary of the political science department said, "There's no way you're going to get in." I mean, the nerve of her, really. So I think that, and that's not a mistake necessarily, but she was, saying, you're going to fail. And I so determined that I was going to prove her wrong. But then they told me, okay, if I could pass these 2 classes, which are all about armaments, I had to learn about weapons, which is like so far from my nature. But I somehow was able to pull off a B+ in these 2 classes, and I was able to get into Columbia University. And then the last one was, one second, I'm sort of forgetting that last one. What was that last one?
I don't know.
And I totally spaced out, but
I'm going to tell you.
yes.
And then you'll remember what that last one was.
Okay.
Okay. I was going to school, and I was college courses, and they asked us to write an autobiography. So I figured, okay, everybody's going to write. My mother is this person. I was born in this area, and my grandmother, So I said, no, I'm going to start my biography before I became human. I'm going to start it before I even became a glimmer in my mother's eye,
Right.
So I said, okay, this is who I am. I don't want to be this color, and I don't want to be treated bad, and so on and so forth. And so I wrote that in my autobiography. Well, the teacher didn't like it, okay? And she cursed me out in front of all my classmates. And but that was the impetus for me to say, this is not my tribe. These are not my people. They don't understand metaphor. They don't understand allegory. I'm going to art school. And based on that experience, I definitely went to art school and graduated and was on the dean's list 3 years in a row. So it all turned out poison into medicine.
And we love that concept, poison into medicine, because the things that appear, you say, well, this has to happen, this has to happen. It doesn't happen. And then you think, oh, I'm a failure, or oh, what's happening, and things are not working out. And sometimes it's something waiting for your life to occur. And I love what you said about your own experience. So we've had similar experiences in that way. This is not what I was going to say, but it's actually concerning this house. And we were so determined to get this particular house that was just perfect for us. And, I was really chanting, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, I've got to get this house. And we had to sell our house in order to, buy a new house.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen in time, and I was so discouraged. And then, wouldn't you know, a month later, I found this house, which was less expensive and so much better for us. So I could not have anticipated that at all, because I thought I knew better, instead of like the law in which, which we live. So this turned out so much better than what would have been.
That's
right. With a friend of ours used to say, our pea brains. We're always trying to think
Fi-
about the
yeah.
way things should be with our pea brains, but it's the treasure of the heart that really changes everything.
True.
Anything else you want to?
Let's see, what else do we have down here? I can't think of anything right off the top of my head.
Okay.
Except that if it doesn't work one way, try another way.
Right? Yeah. Keep on trying.
And and that thing about you try to go forward, and you may be pushed in another direction that's better. That's true. That happens, and just keep at it.
Yes.
Don't give up.
Because it's not permanent, as you said.
That's right.
Failure is just the process of growing as a human being. And if we're so afraid to, learning how to ride a bike, if we're so afraid to fall, we'll never learn how to ride a bike. And that's a metaphor, since you use that metaphor for how, developing our life.
Yeah, you have to have courage.
Yes, definitely courage.
Just keep moving forward.
Yes. And on that note, encouraging words, okay. And once again, this is called failing forward, because when we think we fail, we're moving forward, although we may not perceive it at the time. So there is a saying that says, the earth upon which we fall is the same ground which enables us to push ourselves up again. There's another which maintains that barley grows better after it has been trampled on. Human relationships are sometimes painful, as you were sharing about your first marriage, but there is no such pain from which we cannot recover. It is up to us to decide to live a life free from self-doubt and despair despite our failures. Indeed, it is during our most humbling moments that we should show greatest poise and grace. Then the dignity of our lives will truly shine. So stop judging yourself. The world is going to judge you. That's a given because people are so stupid, right? But don't judge yourself. Just give yourself a chance to grow and develop and make mistakes and be vulnerable. That's what makes you so attractive and stuff, is being a vulnerable human being.
And could I add one
Absolutely.
more thing? President Cater says, whether our life has been a triumph or a tragedy can only be judged at the very end. We just need to shift our perspective on failure, see it not as a permanent mark, but as feedback that clarifies what our next step should be. The most important thing to do is to take action, even if it's just a small step to start moving forward. So just a small step, will help you to move forward. And that's how we overcome everything.
Yes.
In the moment,
right.
Moment by moment, walking forward.
Baby steps.
Baby steps.
And
yes.
baby steps is to be celebrated, right?
Yeah, they turn into miles.
Yes, absolutely. Baby step, absolutely. And you don't see it at the time. Those little tiny steps, but just advance a little bit more every day. So on that note, we are...
Don't mess with the Mommas.
Mommas, with our motto.
You are the protagonist of your life, not the victim of your destiny.
And please, please get in touch with us. We are Mommas, mommas.podcast@gmail.com. And you could find us the complete video on TikTok. And hopefully Instagram, we're still working that out, and and I think that now Apple Podcasts are going to allow us to do our videos, which is great, yay. And we're on Spotify and Amazon. So please tune into us.
And please leave a comment and let us know where you're from.
Yes, and we want to connect with you because we want to hear from you. That's why we're doing this. We want to really have an encouragement group, so we look forward to getting to know who you are, our precious viewers and listeners. Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.